Hello, I'm Victoria Fritz. In the business news this hour, Tesco reveals the extent of the trouble it's in, posting its worst ever annual loss at £6.4 billion and write-downs worth billions more. It is the biggest loss suffered by a UK retailer and one of the largest in the country's corporate history. And trouble over at the internet search giant Yahoo too. Profits fall £200 million and shares slump by nearly 2% on Wall Street. And the UK city watchdog has run out of patience with the bank Merrill Lynch. The investment house is fined over £13 million for failing to report transactions properly over 7 years. The FCA says the bank failed to heed a private warning, a previous fine, and extensive guidance and enforcement action. Good afternoon. Brussels has confronted Gazprom over its stranglehold on gas supplies to Eastern Europe, accusing Gazprom, the Russian government-controlled group, of illegally overcharging its customers and muscling out rivals. For 4 decades, through the depths of the Cold War and the collapse of the Soviet Union, Europe has relied on Russian gas to keep its economy moving, sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Moscow in return. Today, that relationship is fraying. Let's speak now to Trevor Sikorsky. He's the head of natural gas, coal and carbon at Energy Aspects. He's in our newsroom for us. Thank you very much for joining us. All this pipeline politics, does it suggest that the gas is going to stop flowing to Europe?
Not anytime soon. I think, what you saw today doesn't change very much in terms of the contractual structures that are in place. We'll rely on Gazprom for about a third of European gas, and Gazprom will rely on us for being one of their biggest export markets.
Gazprom has got 12 weeks to respond to these criticisms. Do you think we're likely to see an escalation in the situation with Gazprom?
Well, I think it's going to play out in certain places. I think, they'll respond, and I think the charges will probably stick. But I think what you could see is in areas like the Ukraine, where you do have an ongoing discussion on gas supply, which is very difficult, tied up in all of the geopolitical discussions and issues there, that Moscow and Gazprom could take a harder line on supplies to Ukraine than they have in the past couple of months.
So this antitrust case could actually complicate further any possible resolution to the Ukrainian crisis?
Absolutely, and I think if you look at the kind of history of this began way back in late 2011, and charges were actually expected a long time before this. But I think because of the sensitivity around the Ukraine crisis, we just haven't seen those charges being brought. A brand new competition commissioner is in place. She wanted to clear, I think, some of the debt on her slate, and this was one of them, very high profile, and I think she wanted to make a bit of a statement, and that's why we saw the charges come out when we did.
So Trevor, how do you think this is more about politics or more about the personalities involved? Is this a little bit of an ego trip for the two people involved?
Well, I don't think it's an ego trip. And I think what you've seen is these are long-standing concerns over how Gazprom structures its gas contracts into certain parts of the EU, and price differentiation and the lack of liberalisation has been a long-standing theme, I think, of EU policy. However, having said that, there is huge sensitivity now in that relationship between Russia and the EU, and this certainly complicates matters.
And of course, this is all going on against the background of oil price at sort of $63 a barrel. Is that likely to continue?
Well, certainly. That's a big different issue. We've seen in the last little bit an increase in oil prices, but gas prices, which are so much more important for Gazprom and what Gazprom does, are down quite a bit and are likely to stay reasonably low because we are on the verge, I think, of a global expansion in gas supplies, and that has got some big implications for Gazprom and how it juggles this relationship with the EU.
So is it fair to say that, in your view, gas is the future when it comes to our energy needs?
Well, gas, I think, is a big part of how we're going to generate power going forward. I think this is clear from lots of bits of European policy and is the direction we're heading. And the big question I think all of this throws up is, if we don't get it from Russia, are we going to be happy to rely on getting it on ships via LNG? And that can, at times, I think, be a lot more expensive than pipeline gas.
That's a big question. Thank you very much, Trevor, for coming in and talking to us. Let's check in quickly with the market, see what's going on at the moment. And the former boss of Arm Holdings, the brains behind many of our smartphones, well, the boss of that, Warren East, is heading over to Rolls-Royce. You can see what's happened to the share price there as a result. Tesco shares are lower still, almost down 6% after reporting billions of pounds worth of losses and writing down the value of its property portfolio by billions more. And you can see what's going on with BP at the moment. Their shares falling as well, in tandem with the oil price. A lot of fears at the moment that the North Sea oil industry is facing a dramatic squeeze in the future because the world is simply producing more oil than we need. The FTSE at the moment down 48 points. That's it from me. I'll have more in an hour's time. I'll see you then.